Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soul Symphony. My name is Zena. Thank you for tuning into my video. Today I'll go over self-limiting beliefs. Okay. So in my previous video, I went over insecurities. So today I'm going over self-limiting beliefs. Right now, this video is I just talk about things that work for me in my healing journey, right? And then I'm sharing some of the things that I have done that actually work for me. So this is a really creative expression, I would say, right? This is a creative expression content. So I am not forcing no one to follow what I'm saying, right? I'm just sharing because I realize that many of us need healing and very little things out there that are relatable, right? For us to heal, right? And most of the things that we hear from people, professionals, and all that, yeah, it's great to know what comes out of the books, but have you been through it? That's the thing. So, I'm here to share some of my personal experiences, right? Things that I have done, things that I have seen or paid more attention to and addressed during my healing journey, right? So if you're in your healing journey, I hope that this information helps. If it doesn't help, that's okay. But however, if you know someone who might be on a healing journey, please pass it along, right? So self-limiting beliefs. So self-limiting beliefs, usually we don't really talk much about those. There are false assumptions about ourselves. We assume things, right? Depending on how we grew up. If we grew up in certain cultures, especially, we assume certain things, depending on how we were raised, depending on the environment, depending on what we heard in the media, depending on what kind of school we went to, right? We assume certain things depending on whatever shaped who we are, right? Whatever, whoever, because it's not only um, societal. Well, it is mostly societal and also parental, of course, right? So societal, it creates these obstacles that once we adult or once we a certain age, we don't even need to be adults, but we're in a certain age, it also shapes our perception of life. So when we go from one place to another place, it's very hard for us to change, to adapt, to be able to understand other people's point of view. So we are more stuck in this cocoon that was taught to us as we were growing up, right? And therefore, when we go to another place where things are done differently, we're more likely to tell ourselves, no, I can never do that. Or no, I will always be like that, or I am this, or I'm not as creative. I'm not creative enough, or I'm not smart enough, right? Or I'm not good enough in math. I'm not really a leader, right? No, 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 you go ahead. Or if it's public speaking, especially, right? Some people will be like, oh, you want a microphone? You want to go? Oh, no, no, you go ahead. I'm not such a leader to do that, or I'm not creative enough. Oh, you created that. Oh, that's such a great painting. But nah, that I can never do that. I'm not really good enough. It's the self perception of things. And then ability based is mostly we see ourselves not able to do certain things just because. Sometimes it's not even that we apply ourselves, it's because we grew up in a certain environment that is not really propelling us to check and see our potential. And even if we have that potential, can we actually reach it? Can we try to grab that potential and make it reality? Right? We don't do that because of the environment we grew up in. That environment is shaping us. Now, when I was teaching high school, I would say I had so many students that would tell me, flat, straightforward, Miss Such and Such, I'm not good at math. And I'm like, you're in ninth grade, 10th grade, right? So because I taught those grades, ninth, 10th, I'm like, you've been having math literally since kindergarten, right? You've been taught math. So you get all the way to this level and then you tell me you're not good at math. Have you even tried to see if you can do it? There are different levels here, but you're not even trying to see. You were not taught algebra in elementary school or middle school. So this is something completely different, right? You don't even try to see okay, let me see, can I actually do it? Instead of just assuming that I'm not good at math. So it's already a wiring, a mindset. I already wire my brain knowing that I'm not good at this. Just because in elementary school I was having maybe 70s and 80s or 60s actually, maybe, or 50s, right? But I got to middle school, I don't even try. I just know exactly what I'm going to get. I'm just going to get a 60 or 70, or I'm going to just not get much at all. I'm not even going to try because I already know. So that's a self-limiting belief. Because again, the societal part of things of not being propelled or not being given, it's not even, I will not say praises, but more like encouragement. As a parent, especially, or caregiver, if your child comes and keeps telling you always, no, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. Now, the best thing you can do, at least the least you can do, is tell them, ask them, why do you think you're not good at this? And just hear them out. Sometimes you'll be mind blown what they will tell you, the reasons. And then you'll be like, that makes no sense, right? It makes no sense because it's an assumption. A self-limiting belief can be from a society, can be from just something that happened in life that we just kind of start thinking that we can never be good at this. It's a block. It's kind of a mental block, right? That stop us from being able to actually reach the next step in that specific thing, especially when it comes to abilities. Possibility based, again, when we are not seeing things with the self-perception part of things and we see ourselves not able enough to obtain certain things, we don't even see the possibilities. We just see it as it's too late. Well, like the example for math that I was talking about, right? In elementary school, that child was having 60s or 50s, right? And then when they get to middle school, they will say, oh, nah, I don't think I can do that. So the perception and the ability of doing it kind of go hand in hand most of the time, right? So in middle school, I don't see me doing this. I'm not able to do this. So it already knocks off the ability based part of the brain that, hey, I can do this. No, it's not there anymore for that specific topic with math, right? And then when we get to by the time we get to high school, we don't even see the possibility anymore that it's possible for that child. The child doesn't see that anymore. Like, by the time they get to high school, they don't see themselves capable, possibly, of being good at all in math. Never, ever again. And they will, by then, they will probably tell you, oh, I can never do math right. Instead of saying I'm not good enough, they will say I can never. So they already don't see any possibilities in the future, in the present or the future, to be able to actually do math correctly, right? So that's kind of where that self-limiting beliefs, it very detrimental. So it's not only like a one-time thing or one period in our lives. It also has the capability of knocking down possibilities in the future. So that's why, unfortunately, even sometimes when we have great opportunities knocking at our door, knocking at us, circling us, right? We don't even see it because we have this mindset that is imprisoning us. It's a prison. We just set in this way and we don't want to budge. We don't want to move. We don't want to really try to see all the things because in our mind, we are not capable of that to begin with. Therefore, it cannot be a possibility to begin with. Therefore, it cannot be a possibility if we're not capable of it, right? It's like, for example, right, going to higher level education, for example, going to medical school. Now, when you ask, at least in my case, there was a time where I actually, when we start the semester, when I was teaching math in high school, I always ask them, so we do an icebreaker. And I will ask everyone to actually introduce themselves and tell us where they're from, who is their greatest hero, what is their best favorite food, what's their favorite, I guess, TV star, and then what career goals do they have once they're older, right? And then I have a lot of YouTubers. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a singer. I want to be a rapper, right? And then I'm like, very few, maybe one or two out of 30 will say, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor, right? They don't see it. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being a YouTuber because I'm on YouTube right now. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with YouTuber, right? But I'm saying this is not my primary job, right? It's not. And I believe that also it should not be no one's primary job because YouTube is not a certainty for that. Oh, I'm going to make so much money. And I'm not making this for money. I'm making it to share because it's free to share, right? If I get the money, awesome. If I don't, awesome too. I'm just putting the word out there. Now, at the end of the day, these kids, I had to kind of go and make them understand that you cannot use being a YouTuber as a career, right? It cannot happen. Not that it cannot happen. You shouldn't want to lock that in your mind as your primary thing that you want to do. Now, I explain it, I'll go over it. By the end of the year, school year, a lot of mind changes there. A lot of, people, a lot of students that will change their mind and start seeing a little bit broader avenues, a little bit more broader ways that they might be able to actually contribute to society, right? Not just being on YouTube, which I'm not saying. If you have something great to share with society on YouTube, it's a great way to do it. But I'm not saying for you to actually make it as an occupation to, take care of your life financially. That's not a way to go. So I had to like kind of break it down for them and be like, listen, it's great to have a YouTube channel now if you have things that you want to share out there or you think that it might really be financially good for you. But sometimes it can take time for you to, even if it's like something that can make you money, it can take years for you to actually, that YouTube channel to actually, prosper the way you think it might. So I have to kind of explain certain things to them. Ninth grade, 10th grade, we might think they know more than that, but not really when it comes to responsibilities, right? Especially these generations, unfortunately, I don't have nothing against this generation. Again, I'm just saying what I have observed as being a teacher, right? Now, the possibilities, when it comes to those, for sure, it does knock those possibilities away. Like I was saying, those students, most of my students did not see the possibility of being a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, right? And many an accountant, many other things out there, many different jobs, a nurse, many different jobs that are really much sustainable, right? You can be a YouTuber and be a doctor. You can be a YouTuber and be any other. You can do those, careers and also be YouTubing and doing all kind of other things, right? But at least you have one that gives you that fixed income that takes care of your financial necessities, right? Every month, you know that as long as I stay here, I can do all the things. It opens up all the doors for me without having to worry about how I'll pay for my bills, right? Now, again, I had to go and kind of explain those things for my students to understand that. Now, when it comes to relationships, relationship-based self-limiting beliefs, it's mostly the belief that I'm not likable, I'm not lovable, I will never be likable, I will never be lovable, I don't deserve love. And that's when we're more likely to actually attract people who don't give us love. Because one, we don't think that we deserve love, we're more likely not to love ourselves. The self-love part of component is much, much absent, right? So when we don't have that self-love component within us, we attract similar things. Again, everything in life is energetic. Love is the highest energetic vibration out there. It absolutely is, right? The same way love can move mountains. People, when they're in love, they can move mountains, right? They can bring, that's what I guess in the 17th, 16th, 1500, 15 centuries. That's what they used to do, the royalties in Europe, right? They made sure that in order for us to gain more land, things, we have to make sure our children fall in love with another royalty, right? So therefore, we are making it bigger than it should be, material wise, diplomacy wise, in all the things too. So therefore, notoriety wise too, royalty wise too. Two kingdoms that come together, right, in marriage, in love, especially, right? It's way better, right? It brings way more things together. It's not just, and it's more likely to keep those two kingdoms in peace because they would not try to fight each other and go into war and try to, gain each other's territories. If those two royalties have two prince or princesses, in love binding contract, right? Which is marriage, of course, at that time. So that's just one thing. Feeling not lovable enough, not feeling likable enough. All those are relationship based self-limiting beliefs. And those relationship self-limiting beliefs can also actually keep us in a certain mindset because we don't believe that we deserve it. Even when it comes to us, we're more likely to see it as a trick, see it as there must be something. What's the there must be something about this. It doesn't look right because we are not mentally, we're not really ready for it. Number one. Number two, we are probably more used to seeing relationships that don't have love. Again, it goes back to the modeling. When we do not know what a healthy relationship is and everybody is in a marriage but they're hating on each other, so therefore, or they're not really loving on each other, they're not showing affection, everybody is just arguing and toxic in marriages, relationships, we're more likely to see it as that's just the normal, that's just the norm. So therefore, if it's norm, I shouldn't expect more. They must be unlikable for them to be like that with each other. So therefore, I am unlikable too. If I'm part of this dynamic, I'm a part of this family. We all unlikable. So therefore, we only gonna be with unlikable people, right? So that's something that unfortunately that again, self-love. Once we love ourselves enough, we'll be able to actually detach from that aspect of not being lovable. Because again, we understand that, hey, I love me. If you don't love me, that's okay. Keep on moving, right? So therefore, we are more likely to attract somebody else who will love us the same way we love ourselves or even more. Therefore, we will not fall into that self-limiting belief of thinking we're not enough. We're never going to get properly loved. We're never going to get that person, that Prince Charming or that Princess Charming, right? That will come if there's such a thing as Princess Charming. But that person who will come and talk to us in a loving way and treat us in a loving way, right? We will not be able to actually internally understand it, not only understand it, but accept it because self-limiting beliefs are things that we accept to be true to us, right? So self-limiting beliefs, because we believe for them to be so true to us, they blur our self-perception, our ability, and the possibilities of things happening to us, or for us to be able to make them happen, right? So therefore, how do we overcome that? That's the biggest thing. For us to identify, I already talked about things how we can identify. Mostly, and there is a specific language that usually we will hear when we have a self limiting beliefs. It's very absolute, right? Something that is very absolute is very much in a box. So like in math, like you have the absolute value, right? The absolute value is those two straight lines and a number in between, right? That number cannot go nowhere because those two lines are there actually to stop that number. absolute value. It's a value that is absolute within those two lines. So therefore, same thing. The language we tell, the language how we express ourselves literally can tell us if we are in that self-limiting belief. And that language is most of the time absolute. Absolute, which means that we are limited within that box. The same as the absolute value has those two lines that limit that number within that box. Within that limit, it cannot go much absolute values within that two lines. Between those two lines, it cannot move. Same thing. We have that absolute belief, that certain things are just the way they are. We have that absolute language to express the way we feel about how absolute things are. So therefore, that language is mostly always, I will always be like this, or I will never be good enough. I will never be able to travel. I will never be able to marry in a rich family. I will never be able to get that degree. I will never be able to have, that good loving husband or that good loving wife. Oh, love can never come to me. The great love can never come here because it's only for certain people. Oh, that great education. Oh, I can never have that, because it's only for smart people. I'm not that smart, or that degree that I've been thinking about for the last 10 years. Oh, no, I know that possibly is too late. I can never have that. It's too late now. I'm too old to go to school, right? So there are so many examples that we can actually end up stopping ourselves, dimming our potential and dimming our potential and killing our possibilities and our future altogether, right? So that therefore it's very important for us to know writing them down is the best thing we can do, because if we write it down, we're more likely to see it. Just recalling it mentally is not good enough. Writing them down. When do I ever see stuff like that? The absolute language part of things. Always, never, too late, all that, that kind of language. Not creative enough, not smart enough, the ability part of things. I'm not experienced enough. Anything really that makes you feel that, any expression that actually makes you feel that you're not at that level of things is pretty much an absolute language that makes you stay in that box that you're in, which is the self-limiting belief box. It stops you, especially culturally, right? Culturally, there are certain cultures, African cultures in general, right? That African cultures, Caribbean cultures, certain cultures, even here, well, here maybe at some point, in the before the 1960s, right? Or I would say 1950s, 1960s, 40s, maybe, right? Where certain things were only limited to women, to men. Women could not do certain jobs. Women could not go to certain schools. Women could not do certain jobs specifically, right? It was almost all around the world. Let me just say it that way. That over time, and then that women were seen as fragile, right? Or not smart enough. Actually, there was an article that I read that was talking about it. That decades back, right? There were articles that came out that they have to actually rebuke that it was actually a theory that they thought that women were not smart enough as men, and therefore they were not equipped enough intellectually to do certain jobs. So that's the reason, like many many decades back, right, in all over the world, women could not do certain things. So women, even as a little girl, women already grew up. The little girl already grows up thinking, I'm not good enough because I know I'm a girl. My gender limits me from being a doctor, from being a lawyer, from being a mechanic, from being an aviator, right? Many, many, many jobs, right? And it wasn't just a job, it was also a lifestyle. It wasn't just a job, it was a lifestyle. Many, many generations back, and culturally too, in many cultures, if you're a girl, if you get a certain age, you're not married, then you consider to be something else, right? almost like less than a woman, less than a woman. So it's like so everyone will try to every woman, every girl, I would say their biggest thing is, oh, I need to be married as soon as possible, right? Therefore all the other possibilities of doing all the things, all the careers, all the aspirations go out of the window. I have to always look into me being married at this point, at this age, at this specific time in my life. If I'm not married, if I'm not have children, if I'm not this, if I'm not that, then I'm not good enough of a woman, right? So that's just the gender example. But there are many examples out there, depending on culturally where you go. Certain things are only limited. Sometimes it's even tribal, right? In cultures, in parts of the world where they have certain tribes, they have a tribal dynamic, right? Like in India. In India, they have those tribal dynamics where they have the outcasts, right? Which I don't know very much about the history, but I know enough to know that certain things were only limited to certain castes. In Africa, it was the same thing, right? They have tribes there, not castes, more like tribes. So in Africa, it was the same thing. Marriage, certain tribes, you cannot marry within certain tribes if you're from high level tribes. So you have high level, mid level, lower level tribes. So depending on the tribe you're from, you couldn't just go and marry any tribe, right? And therefore, you have to stick with your own people. And so again, that's another way. So even if you were in love with someone, you see yourself with that person, you are not free to go and marry that person, even if you everything is good, because it's more like I can never marry him. I can never marry her because of her tribe, because of his tribe, because of these things, right? Religion too, which I'm not saying it's a self-limiting belief. I'm saying in a certain way, it does limit how far can you go, right? Now, everyone is entitled to determine, am I willing to convert to their religion? Are they willing to convert to mine? If that comes into play, right? Because certain religions don't say I cannot marry you at all because of your religion, but it has except for certain circumstances. Oh, if you convert to my religion, then we can marry. Or if I convert to your religion, then we can marry. Or if certain things are done, then we can marry. But it just depends again on circumstances. But self-limiting beliefs are definitely things that put you in a box. Put you in a box of not being able to get to certain things or certain points in life, right? So it's just that. So writing them down is definitely one thing, right? And seeing the repetition, the negative thought process, never, will not enough, the negative thought process that kind of also goes with it. Being able to see the negative thought, and affirmations are one way to actually be able to combat those negative thoughts, the negative thought process that comes with it. Understanding that, well, I feel like I'm not good enough in math. That's okay. But I can work toward being really good in it. I can practice. I can seek the possibilities, right? The possibilities sometimes negate, or I would say cancel, those current self-limiting beliefs of not being able to do something by seeing it as okay, like the example I gave for the math, the student with the feeling of not being good enough in math. It's as simple as, okay, you're not good enough in math right now. You don't feel that you're good enough in math right now. But with enough tutoring hours, with enough studying, right, you might be able to understand it better. You might be able to see things, patterns, things that you actually have been lacking since elementary school, right, or since middle school, if you're in high school. So therefore, there are certain steps that you probably miss in those grade levels that you can work on and still be good at it. It's never too late. It's mostly that mindset of being optimistic. Because when it comes to self-limiting belief, it's a little bit more on the pessimistic side. Now, making sure that we are going into seeing things in an optimistic perspective that, okay, I'm not feeling good enough at this moment about this, but I can never just shut all possibilities out and seeing it as I can never get there. I can always get there with enough, if I practice enough or if I assess enough where I'm lacking and work on that, I can always get there, right? And tracing again is the source of things. Tracing the source is once we write it down, tracing it. Okay, now I have it, everything written down now. Where did it come from? Is it from my parents? Is it a cultural thing? Is it just something I picked up with friends? Or is it something that I just don't even know where it came from? But the biggest thing, the most important thing is understanding that it doesn't matter really where it came from at this point, even if you don't know where it came from. The fact that you know it's there, that's what's the most important. The awareness of it and seeking to work on it, that's the most important, right? Now, the importance of where it's from, where it originates from, is definitely, I would put some importance to that if it's a societal thing or it's a generational thing. If it's a generational thing, it's a great thing to work on it and break the pattern. Understanding that, okay, this kind of comes from my parents. They taught me about this. And now this is limiting me from actually progressing in this specific thing in life. So I have to do something about it. Now, right? I'm not condemning that my parents, that's all they knew. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be bitter about it, that my parents taught me that. Because again, like I mentioned in my last video, our parents have their own trauma. Our parents can only do as much as they know, right? They cannot create miracles out of thin air. Unless they know about it, they would not be able to correct it. And and sometimes even when they know about it, they don't know how to correct it because they don't have the tools to figure out how to correct it. And it's just that lenience to be able for us to feel that compassion for them, that lenience, that acceptance, the understanding that they also have their own trauma. Trauma doesn't come out of thin air. It came from somewhere. In their case also. The same way we inherited certain things from them that are good, there are certain things that are not good. And we have to understand that in order for us to be able to move on and be able to heal properly, we have to forgive our parents too for actually going through those things. And we have to feel, I would not say bad, but we have to feel compassion for them that they went through all that and they were not here complaining. They were not here, they were not even understanding that it was wrong to begin with sometimes. So that compassion is very important. Compassion, understanding, to be able to be there for them. And sometimes even we go back and explain to our parents, we can, depending on, of course, the type of parents you have, it's important for you to go and explain that to them and be like, Mom, Dad, by the way, A, B, C, D, right? Sometimes they might take you good in a good way. Sometimes they might not. But so it's very important to word it in a way that it would not cause, more trouble than you need. So, but it's still important to bring it up. Like, hey, this is what's going on. I saw this, I saw that, and I'm just asking, like, sometimes you have to ask your parents to know where it come from. If they got it from also their parents or from a sibling or from, because back in the day, you will have siblings that raise their siblings, right? So, because back in the day, people were not there trying to, they will have 10, 12, 15 kids, right? So therefore, by the time the oldest kid is, the younger kid is born, the oldest kid is already in their 30s or 20 something, right? So you have that huge age gap. And sometimes the oldest one will have to raise the little one, right? So we have to just pay attention to that. But our parents are also human. Our caregivers are also human. Sometimes certain things happen. They raise us the best of their ability. The same way we try to raise our children the best of our ability. Now, don't get me wrong, there are bad parents, right? And there are parents that just don't know better, right? So now it's up to us to also judge to see which one of those categories our parents fall under, right? And even if they fall under being bad parents, to me personally, it's not my place to judge because I don't know what actually pushed them to be bad parents. I don't know how their upbringing was. I really don't. Sometimes they never tell us. Sometimes we will never know. And understanding is the best thing we can do. Understand where they're coming from. Not just prejudging, not just assuming, understanding. We can ask, or we cannot ask, but assuming is the worst thing we can do. Assuming that they're just bad parents because they want to be bad parents. No, because they also have their own things. They have their own trauma. They're human. They are. And it took me a long time for myself to understand that again. It took me a long time. But then once we understand that, we try to do better. Not only we forgive our parents, and forgiveness is not only for them, it's also for us. We forgive ourselves in the process by letting go. If there are any resentments that happen in between when they were doing whatever they were doing that actually traumatized us, right? By forgiving them, we're forgiving ourselves. We're forgiving ourselves for not being old enough, maybe strong enough, maybe, or being able to advocate for ourselves because we were just little. Because at some point, by resenting them, we also resent ourselves somehow by not advocating for ourselves. But if we're just a little kid, we would not be able to do that. We don't have that ability to do that at a certain age, right? Because we don't even know what's going on. So therefore, by forgiving them, we understand where they're coming from. Therefore, we understand that some things that they were doing, they were blindsided by doing it because they did not know better, right? Not that I'm saying it's a reason for them to do it, but again, it's a way for us to be able to heal. In order for us to heal and continue our healing journey, we need to be able to forgive. Forgiving is not forgetting now. Those two things are not the same. We can forgive all day long. That doesn't mean we forgot. That doesn't mean also we should put ourselves or our children in that same position to sustain trauma, right? More trauma. Absolutely not. They are not the same thing. But the biggest thing is for us to be able to forgive. Forgive to move on. It's also for our healing journey to move on. Because the longer we wait, the longer we resent, the longer we ponder onto these negative feelings, right? More energy we are producing and wasting on those feelings instead of clearing those negative thoughts and feelings and putting all that energy, that useful energy, into the healing process. So that's mostly for that reason. It's not really it's not an allowance. It's not an acceptance. It's not, oh, I accept what you did. Well, we accept that it happened, but it's not really a open door, right? Oh yeah, I accepted that what you did, therefore you're allowed to do it again. No, that's not what it means. By moving on, it just helps us move on and heal properly. That's all it is. And then the truth, again, that's mostly that. Once we understand, the truth is mostly really, once we understand where everything is coming from, the truth is not hard to see. We just see the truth and then we work with it, right? Replacing those limiting beliefs is the best thing, again, we can do. We adopt, again, like I was saying, just a positive attitude, understanding that possibilities are endless. In many, many situations, possibilities are endless. Unless we limit ourselves from seeing them and from knowing that they exist. They do exist, right? And realistically telling ourselves that whatever we went through, whatever happened that gave us that kind of mental mindset or mental state, it does not define who we are at the moment. It shouldn't. Or even if it does, the understanding that it did help, or it did, I would not say help, more like contribute to who we are today. but it should not keep defining us, who will be tomorrow, right? We have the power over that. We have to empower ourselves to be able to work those limiting beliefs, those self-limiting beliefs, to progress. Because the goal for all of it is to actually keep going forward, positively going forward, not just being stuck in that mindset, right? And so taking the small actions is one of it. Like I was saying, like just doing affirmations. Doing affirmation, understanding that once we start talking that way, that's what's stopping us. That's self-limiting beliefs. Just slowly start to unravel that. Start to understand that there are many possibilities, especially when possibilities come to our door, not to just automatically shut them down or not even see them, right? Because we believe in one thing, therefore other things are not, they don't even have a place in our life. No, just look into it. Okay, let me see how that might work for me. Let me see. If it works, I'll go with it. Let me see. Let me take a little bit of time to see how that might work. Let me change my mind, my perception on things. Let me see. Because that's something that we have to intentionally want to actually look into. Like, am I thinking, am I limiting myself? Am I kind of pushing this possibility from, my life? Especially so for a job, for example, right? Or an opportunity to go to a higher education, or just an opportunity that usually of a lifetime that you might never think that it will happen to you or for you, right? And if it comes knocking, you shouldn't say, I don't know about that. And then start seeing all the red flags that do not even exist, right? So that's a self-limiting belief, seeing it already in a negative way and be like, oh, if I take that job, then that means I have to lose this job that I have, right? That means that I'll have to move out. Well, I like this house. That means I'm gonna lose this house too. Oh, I don't know about that. Instead of thinking in that mindset, it's better to kind of shift that mindset to seeing the possibilities. Or that other job have probably, whoa, let me research that other job. If I kind of just see the possibility, be open to the possibility by just looking into that job. Okay, that job might have actually better opportunities to move up, right? I might be promoted quicker. I might get a better salary once I finish the first 3 months. I can get a higher salary if I ask for an increase, right? Or they can also help me move. They can help me relocate. Oh, wow, they can also pay for daycare. Oh, if I want to go to school, they might be also be able to cover my tuition, right? Stuff like that. But when we already closed up to possibilities, we don't even try to go and investigate to see what other advantages those possibilities have for us, right? But we stuck in that one job. That one job, you cannot get promoted. That's the highest you can get. And oh, you have daycare? Oh, they're not paying for that. Oh, you want to relocate because you want to be closer to your mom or whatever. You find a job next to your mom's house because your mother is elderly and they need help and you need to relocate closer so you can help, or your parents. Oh no, they're not doing that. They're not relocating you. Whatever, or the job, they're not relocating you. But this possibility that you didn't even want to look into, that just fall in your lap so easily, pretty much, and if it's not an easy possibility, let's just say it just happened to come to your life, right? And you did not sit down and look into it and see all the possibilities, all the other advantages. Therefore, you just miss an opportunity because of the self-limiting beliefs. The self-limiting beliefs, I'll also talk about lack mentality in one of my next videos, right? Lack mentality and self-limiting beliefs go hand in hand because they both type of mindsets that actually stop possibilities. They not don't only stop your possibilities, they stop us from seeing possibilities because we are so much holding tightly to what we have and we don't think we deserve more. We don't think we can have more. We don't think that there is more out there, right, for us. Therefore, we hold on to what we have. We don't want to let go. Even if something better comes, right, we do not want to let go. We want to hold on to that tightly, right? And when you don't have enough space in your hand, the universe have a hard time actually pour more blessings in your hands, right? Because your hands are just so closed up and tight, holding that one little thing, that there's so much bigger that can fit your entire, like, you can hug on it. But the universe is trying to give you this big thing that you can hug on. It's so huge that you have to hug on it. But no, you're trying to hold on to this tiny little thing in the palms of your hands, and you don't want to let go. So therefore, the universe have a hard time giving you something big, since you're not letting go of that tiny little thing, right? So that's how it actually works. It's also energetic. If we think about it, right? It's very much energetic. I love reading books, when I can. But the years ago, I did read a quantum physics book, and it was talking a lot about the energetic exchanges, and of course, quantum, like the lowest level, uh, the lowest of all, the smallest of all, how energy works, and then of course, and how that same level is kind of a model of the bigger level, right? So whatever is that tiny energetically, if the way energy works on the smallest little things is the same that it works on the biggest little thing, the biggest things. And the same, the energy exchange is pretty much the same back and forth. Whatever you give, that's what you get. You give more, you get more. You give a little, you get a little. That's how it works. Sometimes you might the universe might try to give you more. But then again, with lack mentality and self-limiting beliefs, we do not receive those things, because again, we don't see the possibilities, and sometimes possibilities are very positive, and because we hold on to those things we already have, and we have so limited in our mindset, and we have a lack mentality, we are not really willing to let go, to try to explore more, to try to see what's beyond what we already have. And not that there's something wrong with that, but again, that's a possibility, the doors of possibilities that don't open up sometimes for us once we are more ingrained into that kind of mindset of not seeing beyond, you know, what we can see. So it's just that. Okay. Again, in every video I will say that. So please, please, please take care of yourself. Okay. Take care of yourself, follow your routine, do what you do on a daily basis. And even if you cannot do it on a daily basis, whatever works for you, just keep up with that. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, okay? Eating healthy, working out, hanging out with family members, therapy, group. If you have a group sessions, that's great. If not, individual therapy. Just make sure that you take care of yourself. You're doing yoga, walks, whatever works for you, okay? Introspectively check and see, what you need to work on. Make sure you reflect regularly to see, hey, am I feeling any different? Is anything working out? What's not working out? Let me switch it up. Okay. Just kind of going into just being intentional. It's mostly that. Intentionally moving forward. Okay. Not everything I just listed we can do. As long as intentionally we try to add one or two things here and there and try to stay consistent with it and see the results, that's what counts. Okay. And just the intentions, mostly the intentions, being intentional in your healing journey, making sure that you're following something, right? Making sure that you're doing any spiritual practices, you have a religious practices. That's something that also, helps mentally, right? So until then, please, please take care of yourself. Okay. All right. Bye.